Matt Sheldon,
What's up?
how you doing?
I'm good. I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing great. And for everybody that's watching, people who are listening, you can't tell the difference. But if you're watching, you guys are probably seeing a different background. We are on the road in San Diego at a friend's house. And I knew Matt was going to be in the area this weekend. So I said, let's just link up and make it happen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Can I say about my baby shower?
You can. I just didn't know who wasn't invited.
Yeah. So I have a baby shower tomorrow. So whole family, friends coming in town, and invited you from LA to come down.
Yes,
So
congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, I'm pumped.
Yeah.
I'm pumped. Not even for the baby, just for the baby shower. That's what.
But I honestly, I didn't know. Again, I didn't know who was invited, who wasn't invited. So I don't want to upset anybody.
Yeah, most people listening to this, I don't think they're invited.
Okay, good. Yeah, man. So you're back for the off season now, and this time around, obviously the baby's coming. So you're still training and doing all that.
Yeah. Still training like 4 or 5 days a week. Was in Charleston for like the first 4 weeks of off season. Came down here. We'll be here for 10 days. Go back to Charleston, and then still like this is just the off season. Like we have no idea. If I sign somewhere else, then it's just move out of Charleston, go there. If I re-sign at Charleston, it would be great that I can just be there and stay there for the whole rest of off season. But yeah, the baby coming in January is probably like the worst timing that we possibly do. But it'll work out, you know.
Yeah, I told you off camera. For me, it's thinking about professional soccer now and having different conversations with guys that I've worked with, but also to my friends and people who have been in the league. I don't know how you guys have the stomach for it. There's just so much, I guess, politics that goes involved with it. There's so much, hey, we can get somebody for this price. I'm sorry, we love you, but, and it's, I don't know, how do you kind of manage those emotions, and do you take anything personally anymore, or you kind of just move on?
I used to. Like, honestly, I really did. And it was so hard because it's like you hear all the time, like, oh, we're a family, this is a family, we're all together, you're tight-knit, you've developed really close bonds with, like, even, like, the general managers, the sporting directors, like, technical directors, your coaching staff, like, everybody. And, like, you still have those great relationships, but it was hard for me at the beginning to separate it to where, yeah, I can have those great personal relationships, but at the same time, it's still a business and it's cutthroat. And like, it was hard for me to like compartmentalize that and separate those two. Now I can do that. And now if I get cut from a team or whatever, I can still have that great relationship with the coach. But at the beginning, it was like, if I got cut or I didn't get re-signed, it like cut me deep and it hurt. And I can see that even now, like kind of like at Charleston or other teams when, I can see that of guys like really being hurt. I'm like, yeah, it's a business. It sucks. And you have to see both sides of that and not take it to heart, Yeah. But it's tough.
I think the big one that I remember was your sponsor pulling out in Germany.
Oh yeah.
That one was killer. I was kind of I was always a follower. I always supported you, but I think that one you were on your bedside with your journal, and I think it was very emotional. Like, I was watching one of my good friends crying on screen, and I know other people have their relationship with you, but I have a relationship as well, and I've just known the journey, and obviously having Armando on the podcast as well and hearing his journey, it's very similar in terms of just the resiliency and just saying, you know what, I don't care. I'm going to keep knocking on doors. I'm just going to keep going, and the support of your family to say, hey, you've gone this far, why stop?
Yeah. I mean, that was so hard over in Germany. Like, yeah, I think it was the first one was the hardest, because it's like you were trying so hard to just get any contract. And then finally, after like probably 10, 12 teams of like trying, finally that first one was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And it was like a great contract offer over there. It was in like fourth division over there. The Regionalliga is like, you have guys on professional contracts, you have guys that aren't. But over there, it was like right on the verge of like $1 less than it to be considered a professional contract with housing and bonuses and everything. So I was like, wow, this is great. I can live off this easy. And then so that's the worst part too. He was like, literally, numbers agreed on, contracts agreed on, housing, even my address, my roommate, all agreed on. And he was just like, yeah, come in on Sunday and we'll sign it. And this was on Friday. So Saturday, he couldn't even sleep. I'm so excited. I was like walking around like pumped. I'm like, I'm going to be a pro, I'm so pumped. Sunday, I didn't want to leave my Airbnb because I didn't have like data. So I was like, needed the Wi-Fi for WhatsApp. And I just had it, phone on the bedside. I was just watching Netflix, but tapping on the phone like every 5 seconds the whole day. I'm like, do I call him? And then Monday when I woke up the next day, I was like, something's wrong. I could just feel it. He's like, yeah, sponsor backed out. We don't have enough money for your contract now. He doesn't want to sign any more guys on the team. And like, yeah, it was like it was probably 48 hours where I did not leave that bed. I could not even.
Devastated.
Yeah, I was devastated.
Would you rather just hear them tell you, hey, it's not going to work out as soon as you can in the process,
Yeah.
At this point, just cut it, sever it. Let's make it, just tell me what I need to know. I can move on and then live my life without having that, like, something over my head for.
Yeah, definitely. And even like here in off season, like I mentioned it in my like last vlog that I was doing, but I was talking with the team. I don't want to say the team name, but like, again, very far into the process. And now this is like, that was the first year of me trying to play pro. And this is now year 8, I think. And it was like same thing, starting to talk numbers. We're interested, all this stuff. And then just for a different reason, whether that's a different right back or, you know, I didn't fit exactly what they're looking for, or who knows, budget wise, you don't really know. But all of a sudden, what was once all agreed upon, like we're pretty much going to send you it this week, and then boom, it's gone. Jesus. And it's just so the highs and lows of the roller coaster. It like 2 days ago, that was the day it happened. I was like, it was the whole travel day out here. You just have that pit in your stomach on the airplane. I was like, sucks. Yeah.
It's also too, this off season, I've gotten a lot more phone calls, obviously, for the guys, because we're moving to MLS Next Pro, and we have guys like Abraham Romero, Tomas Romero. Tomas actually just signed in Toronto, so congrats, Tomas. But Abraham, for example, he's a free agent, so a lot of clubs are reaching out about him, and they call me and they say, hey, what do you have to say? So you can see the scurry around for good players, and I'm sure somebody will pick you up. But it's tough too, because your name's just kind of in a hat, and there's a process that goes along with it of like, hey, we're doing our due diligence. We'll get to you at some point. But in the span of a week, so much can change, but so many narratives start floating around in your head of like, is it me? What did I do? Could I have done this better? Do you ever have like any regrets from where you leave, or you kind of just like, it is what it is. I did what I did. I needed to do what I needed to do, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, it is true. Like you are just like making the story up in your head all the time. Am I falling behind? Or is everybody else being signed right now? Am I too early? And am I anxious about this? And I'm like, I've always gone with the approach of like, have a good agent that you really trust, and put a lot of power into him, stay in contact with him, and you know, pressure him, do everything you can with the highlight video, and reaching out to your old teammates and coaches that you know, just to see, let them know that you're looking, you know, and try to do like all the networking you can, but at the same time, like, just be patient, because I know, and I've been through so many off seasons now where I've seen where something like this will happen, like 2 days ago, where I feel like all of a sudden I have nothing now. I'm back to square one. And then you're just chilling, and all of a sudden 2 weeks later, one weekend, 3 teams are sending over a contract or in the talks of it. Yeah. And it's just crazy how like, it's just, you hear nothing for so long, and then all of a sudden tons of offers. So, and I've always had, or for the most part, decent seasons where there's interest, but I've never had that season where it's like, oh yeah, you know, as soon as the season's ending, I got 10 teams calling me, you know, calling my agent. So that's the goal, is to have a season like that. But
just play better, man.
I know. Why don't I just score more goals?
So easy.
But yeah, no, it is stressful. But I think like if you just take care of the steps, like what you can control, and then just try to take it day by day and be patient.
Yeah, I had an experience like that where, I mean, coaching is probably a little bit different in a sense. Mainly because, actually, you know what? I'm going to try and say that there's comparison that you can kind of say it's very similar. I'll tell a quick story about how I got to LAFC. And I was at Cal State LA for a few years. And the head coach at Cal State LA was like, hey, I know some people at LAFC. They've asked about you. I'm going to let them know that you're interested. The situation is, it's part-time. It's going to be a Las Vegas Lights affiliate. You're going to train here in LA, but there's no expectation for you to travel. And I said, okay, that's awesome. Part-time pay. I can continue doing, you know, pro GK and these kind of like side hustles that I like to do. Yeah. So I said, yeah, let's do it. I went for like a month. I kid you not, a month. Like the end of Ramadan and like 2 more weeks after that. And I was on trial. And I kept looking at, for example, our assistant general manager, Mitch. And I said, Mitch, hey man, I've been here for a few weeks now. Yeah. You said I was on trial, and like no one's giving me like a heads up. I'm trialing trialists, and I'm as if I'm the voice of the goalkeeping department here for the Lights. So I just want to confirm. And then then he talked to John Thornton, and John came to me and said, hey, this is not how we usually operate. We want to let you know that we're happy with what you're doing. We'll have an answer for you pretty soon. Okay. I said, yeah, let's make it happen. So I ended up taking the deal. And then week 1, I got to know Steve very well, Enrique, Steven, all the guys that were a part of the organization. And I said, you know what? If I'm in, I got to be all in. So I'm going to go on the first trip to Vegas. I'm still part-time, by the way. And I'm going to bust to Vegas and see how it is. I bus to Vegas, and everyone knows the story now of how it goes. Bus Friday, train there, play Saturday, leave Saturday. And this was, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I said, you know what, Steve Cherundolo, a World Cup, 3-time World Cup player, playing in Bundesliga, crazy resume. If I'm going to stick around next to somebody, there's an opportunity maybe down the line. If not with him, then he can speak highly of me somewhere if I do well.
Exactly, yeah.
So I just bit the bullet. I said, I'm going to go. And then obviously we lose 23 games. My goalkeeper, I think second ever overall in saves in a season, and I think most goals ever conceded. So that was tough. But it was still like, take a shot in the dark and let's see where this goes. And then the offseason comes. Again, Steve now gets the head coaching job. So I'm sitting there, and for a whole month, just going, oh my God, like, why hasn't anybody called me? They'll say, hey, you can see John's going to try and figure out the head coaching job for the first team. That's kind of a priority. Yeah. Then the goalkeeper for the second team will be coming up. And I said, okay. And then as the weeks and weeks went, you're just sitting by your phone going, oh my God. I literally was on Twitter. It's just a funny story. I'm on Twitter and I type in Cherundolo to see if maybe he got the job. And there's a freaking tennis player named Cerundolo. And every single time I'm looking at this guy's like matches every single week. I'm like, I don't care about this guy, but now I'm interested because I'm literally on Twitter looking for Steve's name.
So now you're his biggest fan.
Yeah, I'm like the biggest fan of this tennis from Spain. And and then Steve gets the head coaching job. And like all the group chats start blowing up. Dude, Steve's got the job. It's gonna be, you're probably the first in line. Goalkeeper coaches, and I'm sitting there all proud, going, man, I'm so happy that I just said yes to traveling, like that I committed to this project when there wasn't anything committed to me. Yeah. So I said, okay, Steve. I sent Steve a text, and I said, Steve, congratulations. Enjoy the next few days with your family, and let's talk soon. And he said, actually, can you meet me at the office on Tuesday? It was, I think, Sunday. And I said, I sure can.
No, I'm sorry.
Actually, I have pencil in my agent. I think he wants to talk to you first. And I'll never forget this. I'm like, it's Tuesday morning. I'm going to take a shower. And I'm just sitting there like by the sink, arms like facing the mirror. I'm like, in about an hour, you might be the goalkeeper coach for the first team. And I'm just like in the shower, music's bumping. I'm just like singing my heart out. I'm like, yes, it's coming. All the hard work. Yeah. And then you get to the sit down conversation, and within like the first sentence, I can kind of tell. I say, hey man, I'm very happy with the work that you've done for us. However, we are going to look for someone with more experience. And when the but came, I was like, okay, let's see. And he said, but I want you to know, one, I appreciate what you did for us last season. I know that wasn't easy. But two, whoever the goalkeeper coach that we bring in, I'm going to make sure that he grooms you and pushes you and allows you to be in the room in those conversations so that one day you will be in this office with me or whoever's the first team coach. And it was, again, I don't know if it was me going to Vegas and risking that or him seeing that I could provide something, but he kept to his word. The goalkeeper coach that came in this season, I would ask him every now and again, I'm like, okay, can I join? He said, not only can you join, you can run the session. Wow. And I said, are you serious? He's like, I want you to experience this, and I also want to see how you coach. Because if obviously I'm bringing Abraham up from the second team or Tomas is going down with you, I want to know what you're all about. And there were sessions where I would interject, and I'd be like, can I change something? And he's like, it's your session. So it was, I don't know. What I'm trying to say is there's just moments that you kind of just have to bet on yourself and say, I'm going to do this. But while that process is happening, don't just don't fall into it naively and say, I'm going to let every day pass and it's just going to be what it is. It's more so take an intentional role and say, well, if I'm here and it's a part-time role, you can ask Steve. I asked Steve like 50 questions on every trip. We would be playing cards and stuff. I'm like, Steve, so can you just tell me, like, what is Tim Howard like? Like, what does he like in a coach? And I'm like asking him all these questions, but all that time was just so invaluable to me. It was awesome.
Yeah. And that's like what I think and this is what I have so much respect for you, is because it's like you're such an opportunist, with that. Like a little tiny opportunity of like what really looks like to be honest, a really situation of busing to Las Vegas, having I've been having really bad seasons in my career, but that was a really bad season. And to go through that, it had been so easy to be like, you know what, I'm just going to stay in LA. I'm not going to do this. But you see the opportunity even though it's whatever, it just being closer to Steve or it's being in that environment or even meeting the players or whoever, you know that something good will come of it.
Yeah.
And you dive in head first, 100%, and you're just like, yeah, I'm going to make this work. And same thing with Pro GK, with everything you've done. It's just like, yeah, I see an opportunity. I'm going to dive head first into it, and good things come from that, And that's being a player. It's like even for me, last weekend, I think it was last weekend, I went up to go see my agent in person because he was doing like a pro combine in Charlotte. I'm like, you know what? It's like a 6-hour round trip drive, but I'll be able to see my agent. I'll be able to meet people, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden I find myself in the room with all of the coaches, 7 professional coaches there, talking, meeting, exchanging numbers, watching, scouting players and stuff too. But I'm like, I didn't know I was going to be there. I was like, I thought I was going to do a 6-hour round trip, see my agent, then peace out, know? So it's like, it's crazy. You dive headfirst into those little tiny things that there might be a 1% chance. And then all of a sudden just stuff unfolds,
I will say for you, I am a big fan of yours again from the channel, but just deep down, I know that there's just like this hunger in you that is not going to take no for an answer. And I think that's what it is, though. It's just that you keep on knocking doors. And I had Armando on, and I told him, I said, there was a moment where my former director at LA Galaxy calls me and says, hey, we need a goalkeeper at Detroit City. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I said, Armando, if you had quit, and validly so, you could have quit months and years ago, and no one would have said anything. They would have said, you know what, kid, you're smart. You're not spinning your wheels for no reason. Yeah. Retire. But because you kept going and going and going, an opportunity fell at my door. And I said, well, first person I'm thinking of is Armando, because I know he won't let this opportunity go to waste. Mm-hmm. Here you go. But it's like you're saying, you just got to keep on pushing and pushing and pushing. And you never know if that 1% will slowly, sometimes you watch football and they say, in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left, they had a 3% chance to win. With a minute and a half, they had a 60% chance. And it's just like they just kept pushing and pushing, and eventually the odds changed. So what was like, has there been one in your career where the slimmest outlook and then it gave you the biggest ROI?
Yeah. I know exactly what it was. It was the in Davis. Do you remember Matt Martin? Like the Portland Timber scout?
No, I don't.
So he was a Portland. I think
Wait, no. Okay, the guy who come to our game sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
At UC Davis, yeah.
Was it Portland Timbers? It may have been.
He was like mainly Portland Timber scout, but he would kind of scouted for Kansas City. He scouted for a couple of And so he was watching the games, and I got in contact with him because he was like around after the game, was kind of talking to the seniors and was like, oh yeah, what are you guys' plans? And I'm like, yeah, I want to go pro. Like, I want to do this. And he was like, okay, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, exchange numbers with me. And then he was like, text me really randomly. I literally had a 10-minute conversation with this guy. And he texts me and goes, hey, there's this Ventura County Fusion team. They're going to play against a professional team from Mexico. I can't remember who it was. And do you want to come down with me? If you come down, and that's a 6-hour drive down to Ventura. You come down with me. I can maybe talk to Rudy Ibarra down there, the head coach of the Ventura County Fusion, and maybe I could get you like the last 10 minutes of the game. So just bring your boots, and I'm not promising you to get in the game or even dress up, but worst case scenario, you drive down to LA and watch the game. I was like, yeah, I'm down. So I got in this guy's car. I've never met him before. I met him for 10 minutes that one time. We drove down 6 hours. We actually watched a UCLA game. He bought me a hotel room. Wow. Stayed in the hotel room. And then the next morning, we went out to Ventura. We went to the Ventura County game. He talked to Rudy at halftime. And Rudy's like, yeah, bring him in. He can play in the second half. So I had my boots, walked in at halftime, saw like Ivan Mirkovic and all these guys that mainly were at Sacramento Republic. And I just went in there and I got to play the second half. And I had a really, really good second half. First time ever playing right back, too. I was playing right back there. And Rudy was impressed. Preki was impressed. I met a lot of those guys, and it just led to so many opportunities at Sacramento Republic, which then led to opportunities at Orange County Blues, which kickstarted my pro career. So it was like not that night it helped everything, but it was like that was the precursor to pretty much my whole career,
Jeez. We all know the Sacramento Republic story and you traveling from the same house that we were living at.
Yep.
Okay, I have a funny question. Was you and Mimi had been dating for how long by that point?
About a year.
And was she kind of inspiration for you or motivation to stick around?
No.
Okay, so I was always wondering if there was like a deeper reading. Like we've always made this like I've always held that time in that house together when you in the kitchen and me kind of on my futon as like one of those. One, it got me into pre-workout, which thank you, that thing's a blessing. Two,
changes your life.
It does. But like going to the gym and waking up early and like driving to, I forgot, what was it called? The
Ramble.
Yeah. I remember we were driving there and it was like there was no one on the streets and I'm like, wow, this is very peaceful. And then the gym, no one was there. And I was like, wow, okay, this is actually even nicer to not have to like share equipment or wait in line awkwardly. So you like opened my mind up to a lot of things. And then other side of it was like, okay, is he trialing or is it just convenient that his girlfriend's here and he wants to like see it through with his girl? So there's no deeper storyline there?
No, honestly, like I pretty much like that year leading into it, because I dropped out of school and then I was talking to the coach at Oklahoma City Energy, and actually kind of I got that opportunity through Matt Martin, which again, like that one trip set up so much. He also introduced me to my first agent. So, and that's the one who took me to Iceland. So I mean that one, like I'm saying, it literally started my whole career.
Wow.
And so anyway, I had like Iceland, I had Oklahoma City Energy, the preseason invite. I had Sacramento Republic to preseason invite. And so I was like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good. You know, I have stuff. And then all of a sudden, one by one, Oklahoma City went in a different direction. This is where I was like learning the business side of it. And then Sacramento Republic, same thing. They got 2 right backs again. And so they're like, oh, we don't need you for preseason. And I'm like, crap. And then Iceland, I got cut because they're like, yeah, you could play for this team, but as a foreigner, you need to be the top 3 players on the team. And then so like I said, one by one, just tick, 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 gone. I think I lost like 5 or 6 opportunities just like that.
Oh my God.
Went to randomly an open tryout in Vancouver for the Vancouver Whitecaps 2. Got selected out of like 200 or 300 people. For 2 of us, came into preseason. After a week, got cut. And then I leveraged that though. I called Preki, or the Graham Smith at Sacramento Republic. I was like, hey, I'm in Vancouver with the Whitecaps 2. Things are going well, but I heard they're going to make a lot of cuts. Again, is there any chance for me to come into Sacramento? He's like, oh, wow, okay, you're at your Whitecaps too, huh? I was like, yeah, you know what, we could take a look at you. And so I was like, okay, sweet. And then I got cut from Whitecaps 2, went down to Sacramento, and like that was my last thing. I had nothing, nobody else to contact. I was like, this is my last opportunity. And after the 2-week trial, Preki was like, there's something. He's like, there's something there. I can see it, but you're very raw. I need to be like fined out. You need to be like the finely tuned, all that kind of stuff needs to be like better. And so I was like, okay, well, can you teach me? Like, can I be here and can I train? Can I do extra? You can show me drills, do all this stuff. He was like, yeah, sure. I was like, okay. I'm like, okay, I'll be here for 9 months then. And he gave me extra drills. I did extra rondos. I did extra training, all this extra stuff. And it was very convenient that it was in Sacramento. I was able to live at Davis with you guys and be with my at the time girlfriend. So, but yeah, that was like my last opportunity. I had nothing else after that.
Wow. Okay, maybe I just forgot because so much stuff has happened in life, and you were what, like 22 maybe at the time?
22, yeah.
Jeez. Okay, so what? That's almost 8 years ago. Time really does fly.
Yeah.
Jeez,
it's crazy.
It is. What's funny is, I saw just off. It's not off topic, but very on topic. Is I remember the Davis. I moved back to Davis because I had seen Lucas and all of our friends Lucas, Spencer, Armando, those guys who live in the house. They were finishing up. They were 2 years younger than me, 1 year younger than you. But I was seeing them finishing up their senior year, and I was saying, man, like I kind of miss Davis. I had messed up my knee, and I said, you know what? I kind of want to go back to Davis and I'll say party, but like experience my youth a little bit more, and just milk that train as much as I can.
Yeah.
Is that even a saying? Milk the train?
Milk the train.
Okay.
We'll make it. We'll make it.
And I said, let's see it. So I went back. I told Dwayne, I said, hey, I'm coming back from the knee injury, and convinced my parents that I should quit work for them because they needed a 4th goalkeeper in training. And my mom always wanted me to go pro. So she's like, if this is going to help you rehab and recover, go back to Davis as a graduate assistant, and then you can go be an assistant or 4th goalkeeper to train. Perfect. Let's do this. So I go live on the couch, and then again get it out of my system a little bit, but the party scene. But then again, I got a little bit of like just an adrenaline rush with coaching. I was like, I kind of like this. I kind of like running sessions. I kind of like, as Dan Ball, who you guys will see, he says it's kind of like you're turning an assignment in, and the players are giving you instant feedback like a teacher would, or like your teacher would to your students, and they're giving you instant feedback, and right away you can say, okay, I can fix that for next time, or I can adjust this and adjust that. I like that part. And then I think a year later, or maybe 2 years later, I saw Lucas again. Lucas is pivotal for the party scene. And and I saw him and Mike Harris and Dane Turner, all those guys having a good time in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to move there. So one of my best friends, he had an apartment spot or like one of the rooms in the house. Yeah. I moved. My parents were like, you've done 2 years of Pro GK. Why are you moving? And I said, well, there's clientele, more money up there. And again, it was just fun. And I wanted to have a good time.
Yeah.
So I flew out there and I drove out there and I was there for like 4 months. And then it was weird though, because I would train kids like Friday night and Saturday morning and then Sunday morning. So I would never actually be able to go out. And then it came to a point where I went to London in 2018, like January, and I was on some of the metros, and I would see people reading the newspaper, and it was like all the London teams, and I'm reading on the front page like all about soccer. And I kind of had this epiphany. I was like, man, I literally came out here to chase this like lifestyle that is not going to serve me well at all in the future. I'm just chasing the short-term gratification of like checking off my bucket list that I had a good time in my 20s. And I went back home, and unfortunately my friend was really pissed, but I was like, dude, I'm sorry, I got to move out. And he was like, okay, whatever, dude, like you were here for like 4 months, we can find a new tenant, but no big deal. I moved out, and then there was a guy, he called me from Santa Barbara, and they said, hey, we have an opportunity for the goalkeeper coach position here. And it's funny, maybe I'm just like reaching for straws here. I'm really trying to reach too much here, but I said I'm not going to go to Santa Barbara because I just came back from San Francisco, and I'm realizing that I built such a big community of goalkeepers in Arcadia, where I'm from, that I can't leave again. 2 weeks later, I get a text from Mike Magid, the guy who I work with, and he texts me and he says, hey, Cal State LA is looking for a goalkeeper coach. It's right nearby your house, easy to commute. You don't have to leave. You can keep your clientele. Let's see what we can do. And I said, okay, is clientele not the right word?
No, clientele's right.
Okay, I would say clients. You looked at me, clientele. I'm like, is that like from a different industry?
Oh, no, that's right. You're good. I'm just like.
But then I said, yeah, I'll take it. And the rest is history. I was there for 4 years, 3 seasons, 1 final or national championship final, 1 national championship, and then that went to Las Vegas, and then went to LAFC. And it's just like, again, it's things happen in life that are like you can't really comprehend or make sense of them. And I think that's the beauty of life, is that as you gain more experience and become more, wise, you start to change your perspective on things. And when once it was a really, really bad thing in your life, you can, with wisdom, change that perspective to say, I gained a lot from that, or I was able to meet that person, or I was able to make that contact. And I think that your journey as well, where those 5 teams cut you, or those 5 teams say, sorry, we don't need you, and then Sacramento happens, and then again, obviously I loved having you there, that was amazing, but you had to do your thing. And then, but again, also too, you were like not blowing up, but you were doing a very good job on your Instagram channel. You were kicking the ball. I remember that big wall you were doing at one of those fields, Hickey Field, I think.
Hickey Field, yeah.
But that was, again, you had more free time, and you were doing all these things, and that's something I loved about you and admire about you, is that when you have free time, it's not free time. It's how can I fill this time with something that's going to be net positive for me. Yeah.
It's like almost like Mimi has gotten very like mad with me about that, of like, I can't relax with that like a little bit. Like I'm always like, even sometimes on vacations, I stress out more because I'm like, I should be doing something. I should be like, why am I just sitting here? And I've like gotten better at it. And I've learned. Mimi's like always laughs. She's like, you need to like enjoy life. You don't enjoy life. But like I do like think it's like I need to be productive. I need to be productive. And it's a very American like mindset. But it has opened up so many opportunities. Even like sitting here like yesterday, I was like sitting down, finished up editing a video, all done training, working out. And I sat down, I'm like, you know what? Like I was just like watching some YouTube video. I'm like, I should just text one of my old teammates at a different team in the USL, see what's up, see what their fullback situation is, Then all of a sudden I'm on a FaceTime call. I'm calling somebody and just doing it. Because it's like, I should. I feel like I have that panic in the back of my head of like, oh, someone's catching up to you on YouTube. Oh, someone's catching up to you on Instagram. Oh, you're not doing enough on TikTok. Oh, no, your career, you got to train more. People are training harder than you. Oh, people are being swooped up by USL teams already. You need to go out there and start talking to people. And I think like it is true, if you do that with the right amounts, you also balance it with enjoying life. Yeah. Like that's like really how you get those opportunities,
Yeah. Enjoying life. Now with the baby coming into the picture.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? This is the craziest thing. On Wednesday, I think like I've matured a lot with like realizing what's important in life, because like in Germany, when I had that contract basically rescinded, that was like like I said, 48 hours of depression, like very, very like unhealthy, dark, like didn't eat anything besides like croissants because that's all I had, and just moped in my bed. Here, I mean, maybe because I'm older, I feel like I'm more confident, having more opportunities, but like also I'm like, you know what? Mimi's healthy, the baby's healthy. I'm in San Diego. I'm going to see my friends and family on the weekend. It could be worse, you know?
Yeah.
It's okay. I had this before. Teams have rescinded contracts before. Other stuff will come up. It's like it's no big deal. Life could be a lot worse right now.
That's the perspective aspect. And I try to get the younger players, and I honestly think that's what's helped me as a coach, because I'm very like introspective, and I have a nice friend group who is nice to me when I'm introspective to them, and I'm like, hey, this is what I'm kind of going through, and they're very patient with me and say, okay, let's like walk you through this and see how we can adjust the perspective, and maybe you're looking at it from the wrong angle. And it seems like that is a lot to do with just like week in and week out. You can be a 10 out of 10 one weekend, and then the next game you play, midweek game, you're a 5 out of 10, and the whole world's crumbling in. And I think for me, being somebody who's introspective, I try to offer that same approach and that same kind of framing to the goalkeepers that I work with and players that I'm with. And I just walk up to them sometimes, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, you dropped the ball. You made a mistake. It was a bad pass. Okay, whatever. You have full confidence from me that I know for a fact, I've seen you do it in training. It's one time. Let's go. Next game, you got this. Let's do it. And then you see it. They do it in a game. And then we kind of look at each other like, duh. Like, we knew this was going to happen. So I think that's do you feel like that's something deep now, but like for your kid, and you kind of like, that's something that you can't wait to kind of share all the lessons you've already learned?
Yeah, I'm so excited. Like everything about that, I'm just pumped. I hope that she really likes sports and wants to play, but if she doesn't, we'll do something else, whether it's dance or anything. But I think like the lessons of that is very, very important. And I think it's so cool too that you do that, and you have the confidence for me to your players about that, because I think that's where the most anxiety comes from as a player when you mess up on the field, as you think, oh man, there goes my opportunity. I'm gone. I'm on the bench. That's it, you know? And you're stressing almost because you don't know if you have that full confidence from your coaching staff. So for you to do that, like I had the same thing when I was at Orange County my first year. I'd have really bad training sessions because when you're young, you're so, inconsistent with your, with how you play. And Barry Venison at Orange County would literally like FaceTime me or call me after a bad training session when I was just, and he'd be like, look, like I brought you in here for a reason. You're going to start this next weekend. Like, I know I have full confidence in you. And he's just doing the same thing that you did to your players. Like, shake it off, come in tomorrow, come in aggressive, do what I recruited you for, do what I scouted you for, attack down the line, defend how you do. You can do this. And then the next day it was great, But that helped me so, so much. And I've had coaches that didn't do that. And luckily that wasn't my first year. But I think that's so important to do that.
Yeah. I tell a story about my goalkeeper coach at the Galaxy, and he was very intense. And then, again, I do appreciate and respect a lot of the lessons he taught me through the discipline side of things. But then we had Jason Hoteling at UC Davis, and he and I were very much the same in terms of personality. We love big, and in terms of our approach to the game, is that we can joke around every now and again, but when it's time to get serious, we want to get serious. And I didn't really understand when you have a coach who's very aligned and they share the exact same, I guess, understanding and vision of the position, that it opens so many doors internally that externally it looks like this guy looks so calm. And I think that was something that I took away from Jay, where I was like, man, this guy is making me feel like I'm the world beater, man. Like I'm the best goalkeeper in this, not in this conference, but in the country. And I felt that he allowed me to play with a freedom. And when you play with a freedom, you play off instinct. And when you play off instinct, you never question yourself.
Yeah.
And when you never question yourself, which is why when you have full confidence, you can strike a ball 100 times and hit the target every single time. But as soon as you mess up that one time, then that's where, funny enough, players don't recognize it. But coaches, we don't care if you mess up. I always go, shit, he messed up. I want to see what he does the next play. And with Abraham, because he's the guy I just had this year, I had to miss a game. I was sick, but I was watching it on TV. I played against Orange County, and he had a goal kick that it was a pass back, took a touch. He tried to like lift it over. It was like almost like a dime, like perfect pass. And the 8 took the ball away. They countered. They almost scored. I'm watching from my bed or from my couch, and I'm like, goal kick. Morton's wide open. Let's see what he does. Like I know Abraham. He's gonna hit this.
Yeah.
Boom. Almost the exact same ball that he just missed. He plays it. He completes it, and we go. And that's where I think it's a misconception for players is that when you mess up, the coaches aren't mad. It's when you mess up again. That is essentially where you kind of lose a little bit of trust. And as soon as you can kind of flip the script and change the perspective on that and realize, okay, I messed up, but the coach wants to see how resilient I am. And if I can trust myself that I'm going to be able to make this next pass or not question myself to do what I'm already like fully well equipped to do, then that's a coach is going to be like, okay, that guy's good. I love
exactly.
that. Yeah.
I remember I came in on I was on trial actually. I was already on Orange County, and we had this player come in who had a really good resume, and we did the full rondos, we did the full the typical small passing patterns, possession drill, and then we go to 5-a-side to the big goal. First play, goalkeeper rolls out the ball. He's playing center mid, checks his shoulder, ball comes into him. He takes a touch that kind of escapes him a little bit, a couple yards away. Ball stolen, goal.
Jeez.
And I was like, that's a bad first touch, like, ooh, that's unlucky. But he was experienced, and same thing, it's, loser's ball. So the goalkeeper goes into the net, grabs the ball again. He does the same checking run, calls for it the same way, checks his shoulder the same way, demands it, even like louder this time. Gets the ball, takes that same touch, but it works out, turns, plays it. And I'm like, that's it right there. Like, I was like, he did exactly what he should have done right there. And right there, I'm like, I had full confidence in him that he's a great player, and that was one mistake, and it's not going to happen again.
Yep.
So I was like, wow, that I learned so much just from that, like 30 seconds right there.
Yeah, and it's like you can't really stop somebody in training and say, hey, where did you learn that from? Like, why would you demand the ball again? Again, that's why I think team events and just having conversations off to the side, and why it's so important for senior players to come into the young guys and say, hey, man, look, you lost the ball today, but I would prefer that you demand it next time. And I think that's, again, what you offer. And if any coaches in the USL, MLS are watching, this is Matt Sheldon.
Contractless. Need a job. Have a baby on the way.
Oh, man. Well, what does Mimi think? Is she ready for you to retire, or is she ready for you to?
No, I think honestly, my gut, I think I have another 4 or 5 years. I want to play till I'm 34, 35, I think, and reevaluate. I feel like I'm 21, body wise, on the field, I feel fantastic. I feel so good. And I still am the same with I want to keep on training. I want to do more. I want to keep on improving, and I keep on seeing improvements in my game. So I'm like, well, I'll just keep on doing that until I stop seeing the improvements. I do think for both of us, what we're talking about right now, the off season time, it's kind of wearing on both of us a little bit of 9-month contracts bouncing around. But it's also exciting because it's we have no idea where we're going to be living in January. I hope it's Charleston. I hope he can come back. But it could be anywhere. Could be anywhere, even in a different country. And you only have such a small window where that's actually going to be part of your life. And I'm even thinking in the future of okay, if I do buy a house and settle down and I'm retired, am I going to get bored of living in the same house even for more than a year? I'll probably enjoy it, but it will be not as exciting. So I think we're both really enjoying it right now, and I think we can enjoy it right now so much because we know, and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. This isn't going to be our life long term. And that's why I even said, I don't really want to go into a head coaching role professionally or maybe even collegiately, because I do want to have more stability, and I want to have a profession once I'm done where I can, if I come to San Diego or Portland or wherever, I'm here for 10 years, and really establish roots, because it has been hard on Mimi, and I can see it's going to be hard on our whole family. But she's been so good about it. I definitely, once we're done, be okay, now it's our time. We can settle down, buy some furniture, actually put down roots.
I love that. But one thing you did inspire me is give as much attention to what you do on the field to what you do off of it. And for me, that passion and these passion projects that I want to do, and I have 6 weeks off right now until the season starts up again. And I told my best friend Omar, his name's Omar too, I said I want to do 20 podcast episodes in that 6 week frame. So if you average maybe six a week, I can't do math.
Damn.
I can't do math. Oh boy, that's why I'm happy I edit these things.
Yeah.
Three a week. Jeez. But I think that's something that you did where I watched you, and as funny as it is, like we kind of gloss over and we make fun of you living in the kitchen, me living in the, at that point when you were getting into YouTube and Instagram, do you know what I was doing at the time?
DJing.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, DJing.
I went to Coachella a few times, everybody, and I don't know what it is. Something took over me, and I'm watching these DJs. I'm like, man, everyone's saying, how easy it is to be a DJ. So I'm gonna go home, and I bought Ableton Live, the software, and I bought like this the Push 4 or something, and I started doing it. Within like a week, I was like, wow, this is really freaking hard. This is impossible. Yeah. But then I moved to Davis and set it up in the room, and but then I saw you doing the YouTube stuff, and I kind of said, man, I feel like I can, in terms of, maybe it was the wrong way to approach it, but like I love getting Instagram likes. I love trying to curate content for specific days to get X number of followers and all that. But I was like, why don't I just, and you were the reason, why don't I just try to gear it towards something that I actually know and goalkeeping? So then that's kind of where it started. And then recently with the Vegas trips and everything, the assistant coach and I got really close, Steven, and we're having a conversation, and we looked at each other, and I kind of looked over, and I was like, dude, I can't do this for the rest of my life. This travel is so hard. And I sat there, I was like, man, this is a lot. And I'm just happy that the social media and these things have gained enough traction where I feel like when I do stop coaching in like maybe 10, 15 years, I can transition into doing this. And for me, it's that same exact passion that I'm exerting into coaching. I'm going to do it to this, but I'm trying to get a head start. So in this 6 weeks, it is kind of like a very modified schedule, and I'm doing as much as I can to gain as much knowledge as I can about this. But I'm also like realizing instead of buying a DSLR camera, I can buy 2 GoPros and they film in 4K and I can edit. So it's like there's so many, now I'm figuring out shortcuts and stuff.
Yeah, no, and I love that too, because that transition, you don't want to get stuck, and you see players, especially in the USL, get stuck of like, okay, I'm making this amount of money in the USL. Now this is the only really talent that I have. And then once they retire, it's like, oh, I have to go into coaching because that's kind of my skill set. Yeah. And then they kind of get stuck into coaching. And I know some absolutely love it, and that's their 100% their passion, and they're 100% happy. But I also know there's others that kind of wish that they had something else, because it is tough. And like that, the coaching lifestyle and even the professional lifestyle, it's the best job in the world, but it is very, very exhausting and tiring and mentally draining, and highs and lows. And just even the little things of like traveling on the weekends. You have 17 away trips in America where you're going thousands of miles, thousands of miles across from Charleston, South Carolina to San Diego, California in a weekend, back. And then the next weekend you're going out to Colorado and then back. And it's just it's tough. It's very tough. But I know, like you said, you have these other things and you're working on stuff in the meantime, in your free time, so that you can make that transition once you're done and do something that you're really, really passionate about, and also have a little bit more flexibility with your time or whatever you want to do. Because it's coaching and playing it's tough. It's really tough. It
is. I mean, coaching and then also, playing and curating content is not easy, but it does allow you to fill out your days and feel really good about it. I don't know about you, but I feel very good. Even though early on your channel, it took a little bit of time to gain some traction, for people to trust you, and for you to trust yourself and say, I'm a voice that's worth people listening and being heard. But are there any life lessons that you've taken from the Become Elite journey?
Yeah, there's a lot. I feel like the one big one I think of too is like we kind of hinted at, of like learning to trust yourself with the information, and put it out there. And especially about how, people are kind of tear you up in the comment section anywhere, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, especially when you're starting out. People are like, who is this guy? Why should I listen to you? What have you done? And there is always truth to it, because it's like, I haven't really played pro that long, or I haven't even played pro yet. And so then you have that imposter syndrome, like, do I even know what I'm talking about? Should I put out content like that? And I think like that big lesson was like, just be humble and talk about what you know, admit that you don't know everything, and just work hard at it. and ignore, a lot of the hate, but also listen to it, because there's usually a nugget of truth in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And try to improve your content so you get less of that, and just be as authentic and as real as you possibly can, and just keep on showing the work and putting in the hard work, and people will one day respect it.
Yeah.
I think that's huge.
I think I've been trying to stop. I've been trying to stop saying I think a lot. By the way, I rewatch all the podcasts.
You have your transition
I'm
statements. It's hard.
Jeez, I hate saying it. But there is a.
You should go, I reckon.
I do declare. No, there is something again that I don't tell that many people this story, but I think I may have said it once on a podcast and I never posted it. But you and I took a class together.
Yeah.
And this was because you're 1 year younger than me. We weren't in the same friend group off the field.
Yeah.
We hung out at like team parties and team events, but I didn't know you on the personal level. And there was a class that we took. It was like geography, or like
geology.
Geology.
It was rocks.
Geology rocks, like the dumbest
rocks,
class. And I remember early in the class, some of our friends would on test day nowhere to be found, and I was like, okay, where are they?
Mm-hmm.
All sitting next to you. And I said, why the hell would you guys sit next to Matt Sheldon in any class, let alone geology of rocks? What the hell? Come to find out of the 6 people in the class, I was one of the 6 that did not pass. Everybody else who was in the freaking line, the snake line of getting all the information from you, all got B pluses and you got an A.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not stupid. I'm a quick learner. So next test, I made sure that I sat next to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was you, Chris Schultz we were in at Ramble. You guys were in the room, and like Chris and you guys were studying. And Chris is a smart guy too, but he was like, you guys were grilling each other on stuff. And I remember just staring at you guys going, yeah, you guys better freaking study, because if you don't, I'm screwed. I was like, let me get out of your hair. Let me go sit in the other room.
You guys need any water? You guys need any snacks?
I'll be transportation whenever you guys are ready to go to the classroom. Let's do it. And I remember I passed the class. Thank you. I never said thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But it was funny because it was like I never knew that was who you were.
Yeah.
And now fast forward, knowing what I know about that class and knowing who I know you now, I'm like, okay, shit, it's easy transition from your, I guess, how you approach school and how you approach studying and how you approach time management in college, and how you do the exact same thing to your career, but also to your other career of curating content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. One thing that's funny is that like a lot of times I'll meet people, because people either know one side of me usually before we actually meet.
Yeah,
it's like you either know Matt Sheldon on YouTube Become Elite, and that's where you know me from, or it's like you know me as a friend, you meet me first. And it's kind of like you said, like, I love that, where it's like if you just know me as a person first, it's like, oh, this guy doesn't really take life seriously. He's kind of stupid, jokes around a lot. But like, it's like that compartmentalizing it and being like, yeah, I can joke around even with Jason Hotailing, when you're training, it's like you can have those jokes, you can do it, goof off even. But then when it comes, like when push comes to shove and you're training or you're in that set or whatever it is, it's like you take it completely seriously. Yeah. And like people are like, oh, like YouTube, you're just so serious, It's like, well, that's like my career. That's like talking about like my 2 favorite things of like YouTube as a business, and then also my career and how I train. Like those are the only things in my life that I take seriously, really.
Yeah.
And so I put so much effort into that. And so it's like I am so kind of like serious, and sometimes I even tell myself, put more jokes in, put more of your personality in there. But it's funny because when people then know me from YouTube and then they meet me in person, they're like, wow, this guy jokes around all the time. He's never serious. Like I didn't think he'd be like that. And it's like, yeah, it's like you can have both those sides,
I love that. What's funny too is, I won't even say funny, but the way I listen to what you just said is that you can almost have this assumption about who a person is. Mm-hmm. And I think on the field and everywhere now with social media, you can look at someone's life and how they present themselves, and that assumption turns into a belief. Mm-hmm. And that belief, sometimes you look at them and you go, you're comparing your weaknesses to their strengths, and you're looking at, for example, I look at you and I can just say, oh my God, like he hardly studies for anything. He doesn't take anything seriously, and then he aces the test.
Yeah.
So I can kind of blindly see that, whether I know you or see you from afar, and be like, okay, well, that's Matt's lifestyle. He studies, or he doesn't study and he passes. I can do that too. And you can see that with players. Mm-hmm. They can see some guys who maybe they post on their social media that they're not doing the crazy amount of training, but as soon as that camera turns off and no one's looking, they're putting the hard work in. But you can turn an assumption of they don't train and they're still good, so I can do the exact same thing and take those same liberties, and you're sadly mistaken. And I'm sure you've probably seen that, or if maybe you've probably encountered people on social media who ask you all these questions, and at the end of the day you just say, just work.
Yeah. I had a player at Battery. I was juggling, and I don't know if you saw it. Like, I posted my story where I kicked the ball like really high up.
Yes.
Like, and I was like, that looked pretty good. You know, the touch looked decent there. And I was like really, really happy. And I was like doing that. And like, I was talking with one of the younger players afterwards. He's like 18, 19 years old. And he's just like, yeah, but like, you've always had that, huh? I'm like, bro, if you would have seen me at Davis and my first touch at Davis, I was a trampoline. And it's like, but like, I also was, you know, like you said, like, I was so embarrassed by my touch and how bad I was with the ball at Davis, at UC Davis, that I was doing 1,000 juggles in my Ramble apartment every single night because my touch is not there. I need to get a better feel of the ball. Going after by myself, embarrassed, going to the wall, that wall that you see in the YouTube videos, juggling against it, trying to keep the ball up, bouncing it, you know, doing the first touch work. Because I was like, I have to get better on the field about this. And you're almost kind of like, I wasn't even thinking like, oh, you know, don't let anybody see this, but I was like almost embarrassed. Like, I don't want to be like that guy with the terrible touch out there, the donkey doing that against the wall. So I was like, just do it, you know, quietly, do it in your room. Don't tell anybody about it. And then now it's funny talking to players like, oh, come on, bro. But like, you've been like that. That's your touch. That's your thing. I'm like, that was not my thing.
Yeah.
And it was just a lot of hard work over the last, 10 years of doing that. You know?
That's crazy. You've really come a long way from the Davis days.
Yeah. I mean, I that's like, I actually just filmed a video and I was talking about the biggest regret of my career, and it was like the 3 biggest regrets. But one of them was just like, I never had any formal coaching really. I mean, I did club, but a club in the 90s and the early 2000s in Portland, Oregon was terrible. Like, I mean, I had some really good coaches, but like, it was twice a week. You're there for an hour sharing the field, you know, get half a field. And then it's no fault of the coaches. You can't do much with 2 hours of on-ball training, you know, a week. And so then I didn't have any academy system. I wasn't, you know, kind of groomed or pushed into ODP or regionals or any of that stuff. So all the stuff is just like training by myself in the garage, juggling, doing stuff. And so like, I just kind of was in that bubble where I was good enough technically. And you get to Davis and you're like, I am not good enough technically. And I wish I could have had like some, like, if I even could go back and just like train, you know, 11-year-old Matt Sheldon and work on that kind of stuff, it'd been so much better, you know?
Yeah. It makes it easier to adjust levels if you have the baseline and foundation.
Yeah.
And it's tough. And it's a common conversation that I've been having with people is those regrets.
Mm-hmm.
And very similar to you, I wish I could go back to my younger self and try to influence. It doesn't have to be the unrealistic of like, I wish I could tell you to go invest in Apple or Google or Amazon.
Buy those monkey crypto
NFTs.
NFTs. Dude, don't buy those, bro.
Do not. I saw Justin Bieber bought one for 1.3 million. It's now 74,000. It's crazy. Anyways, but it's those things that juggle the ball 100 times a day. Something that's digestible and could have been easy to do, which again, I think I love about us having this perspective and being introspective and being self-aware and having parents and friends and family who can communicate those shortcomings to you. Mm-hmm. And now when you're having a kid or your niece, nephew, your coach, you can pass along not just the technical side and like the reminders, but you can actually say, hey, look, I've lived life. I have regret that I didn't do this. You will have regret, just believe me. Mm-hmm. And you have to find a way to communicate that to the younger Gen Zs, but you find a way.
Yeah. And that's what my dad did to me and my mom did so well, and I'm so thankful for it. They had no idea about football at all. Like, they had no clue. My dad was baseball, American football, and basketball. My mom was track and what other sports? I don't even know the other sport. Volleyball, I think. And it was just like, I grew and I had this passion for it and I was good at it and I wanted to do that. And I was also way too small and frail to play American football. So like, you just got to keep on kicking the ball and doing that. But like, my dad knew, even though he couldn't tell me like how to hit a long ball or how to lace a ball or how to pass with the instep of your foot, it was like, well, the only way to improve at it is to train. So let's just get touches on the ball, train, even if it wasn't always the best actual training or even the right tips or right whatever. The baseline, the foundation of that message was, you can get better, but you have to just go out there and put in the hours and put in the work.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the biggest lesson, like whatever, you know, for your future kids or my future kids, whatever, I'm always like, that's the main message. If it's art, if it's dance, if it's basketball, if it's soccer, it's just like, yeah, I might not be able to tell you how to actually improve in that specific area, but the baseline is just like, you can work, put in the hours, train, and dedicate your life to that, you know, and then you're going to get better.
Yeah.
And if maybe, you know, it's not going to be crazy. You might even switch halfway or whatever, but it's just, it really is as simple as just putting in the hours and being dedicated to it for the long term.
Yeah. You do a lot of tutorials, by the way. And I texted you one day and I said, Matt, I need you to tell me how to improve my left foot.
Oh yeah.
And you texted me back and said, dude, you just need thousands of reps. I remember like throwing my phone. I'm like, what the hell does this guy know? Like, why? But it's tried and true. And everything that you just said about obviously passing on that message, but at the same time, like what your dad said too, is just keep showing up. It's all about repetitions. There's a reason why people are masters at things, because they keep repeating the same moves. If you're a chess player, you repeat a lot of the same moves. You memorize a lot of the same, you know, big things that professionals have done, and you try to filter what you like, what you don't like, and then you apply it. But a lot of times we stop short of that, a week, a month, a year too soon, and then that breakthrough never comes. And I think that is what I've learned with anything, is just continue to show up. The repetitions will come, and you may not ever... I thought about this recently. For me, one of the big things, I don't know what that was, but
something just broke.
Full transparency?
Ah,
so we're back that up. I was gonna say full translation.
Full translation. I'm gonna milk the train here.
Full. Oh my God, what was it?
Transparency.
Wow, this is gonna sound even worse. Full transparency. Something that I do struggle with is, what's funny enough, is like communicating with people. I've always...
You think you struggle with that?
No, I just think my expectations are too high, and I always want to have this instant and great connection with somebody.
Yeah.
And I take my connections with you or Lucas or my other friends, Omar, like my close friends, and I assume that I can be that same way with everybody, when in reality, the repetitions of you show up once, you get to know them, and then it's okay. There's going to be some people that love you and they're going to appreciate you right from the start. Your humor is going to hit right away. But then you keep showing up, you keep going. By the third or fourth time, those people, if they have the same humor as you and you guys see the world the same, they will become your close friends. But I think I've always had that expectation that every conversation I have with somebody, even with goalkeepers, I think I have to have this like crazy comment that's going to create an epiphany in their mind, and they're going to look at me as this guru. And I think social media, me being on Pro GK, it's kind of like altered my perception of how I want to be perceived by everybody. When in reality, if I dialed it back a little bit, I remember I didn't trust my voice at the beginning. People told me I didn't know anything about goalkeeping. I didn't play professionally, and now I've just said I'm going to stick with them. I'm going to stick with it. And you say stick with what you know. Admit that you don't know some things. And then your ego gets checked at the door, and as soon as it's checked, you have all this freedom now to go run and make mistakes and do whatever you need to do. And then once you've really solidified that voice in your head and that confidence, you go back to your ego and you go check it and say, look, bro, we've done a lot of self-work. I know you've been kind of put on the shelf for a second, but let's try and mesh and coexist. And I think that is what I've really learned a lot.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny that's like something that you've wanted to improve about yourself, is just like the connection with people, like right off the front. Because I think that like, for you, I think one of your biggest strengths is like connecting early on with that.
Me and your dad, for some reason, dude, Chuck and I just...
My dad loves you. He asked me, is Omar going to be there? What the hell?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I think he and I just get along.
Yeah.
But it's just, you want to have...
that with everybody.
And I do this a lot when I'm driving or whatever. The metaphors of like, I think of something, even if I'm driving, I think of something that just happened on the road and I go, how can I translate that to life? But this is one of those where it's like, you're so good at something in a game, the long pass or hitting it to somebody's chest, or somebody's making a run into space and you put it onto their foot into space. You miss that. And then the second time you do it, you're just like, oh crap, am I as good as I think I am? And then with the conversations, it's like, I hit it off with your dad. Your dad's a super chill guy. He and I, we see things very similarly. Conversely, we have really good conversations. But then I have a conversation with somebody who may not understand my humor, or maybe doesn't understand me. And then right away I question myself and I'm like, oh my God. But in reality, maybe they just had a long day, or maybe I wasn't delivering the way I thought. The next time I see them, just try again. And maybe, just maybe, you are as good as you think you are at what you do. Yeah.
And I think too that like there's just some people like it's just not, no matter what, you're never gonna have that full connection that's like that, you know. And I think it's really important to realize that with whatever it is, even like of like coaches not liking your specific style or whatever it is about you, just not rating you as a player. Like sometimes like you can improve, and you're just not going to be that guy's player. You're not going to be his fullback that he's looking for. Like your style of play, whatever. It's like you can improve so much, and it's just like you're not it. It's the same as like that quote of like you can be the ripest, juiciest peach in the world, but there's people out there who just don't like peaches, you know. And so it's like I think it's so good. It's like, you know, especially as athletes, you're always looking, what can I improve about myself? What can I improve?
Yeah.
And to do that, but then also like counter that with the full confidence of like, yeah, and if he doesn't like me, then screw him. Like I know myself, I'm going to be me. And I think those are a lot of the people I have the most respect for, of just like, I'm me no matter what. You're going to, people that like me and we gel, we're going to gel and we'll be best friends. And if you don't, I don't care. I'm still going to be me.
Yeah.
Because I've always kind of been like, oh, I'm going to kind of mend or bend my personality to who I'm talking with, just to kind of like, you know, kind of want that connection no matter what. When sometimes it should be like, no, we're not compatible with whatever it is.
Yeah. That's hard to move on from, though.
Yeah.
Again, the ego is conquers all.
Mm-hmm.
It can get you in a conversation and you're like, this person's not responding to me. I'm going to stick this through until they respond. And sometimes you just spin your wheels and you miss out on a conversation you could have had with somebody else who would have appreciated what you had to say.
Mm-hmm. And it's like even pushing that to like football, it's like you don't want to waste all your time and energy trying to impress a coach that's never really going to be impressed by you.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what I've kind of grown and learned too, is like when I first would have a coach tell me that we're not interested, or he's not the player that we're looking for, the certain profile that we're looking for, I was like, oh my God, I would take it to heart, take it personally, be really down about that. And now it's like, it's okay. I know I'm a USL player. I know I'm a professional level player. I know I can play at this level. I know I can perform at this level. And if you don't see me for your team, I get that, not the right style of play.
Yeah.
I don't want to be there either, because it's not going to be a good fit. I don't want to convince you, beg you to be on your team when I want to go somewhere else where a guy's like, that's my player, that's my style of player, that's who I want. Or, you know, whoever it is, if that's a coaching position, you want to be with a coach that's like, that's my guy. I like how he sees the game. I like how he coaches. You're mine. And I don't want the begging a coach like, oh, let me prove it to you. Let me do this, you know?
Yeah.
And it's balancing that of like improving yourself so you can convince more people, but not trying to waste your energy convincing people that are never going to be convinced.
Very well said.
Thank you.
Seems like you've been doing this for a long time.
I've talked on video once about it or twice.
It's true, man. And I think that's how you need to live your life. And I think there's so many comparisons, which is why I called the podcast Life Through Sport. It's just you live so much of the formative years with the sport being an outlet. And then once it's not an outlet anymore, it becomes what you think about at the front of your mind, the back of your mind, days off. Like just everything you do is consumed by that sport. So you learn all of your life lessons, how to deal with adversity, how to be resilient, how to, like you said, just, hey, if you don't like me, it is what it is. But at the same time, think about, hey, there's some validity, there's some truth to what they're saying, and not completely shun it out of the way. All right, we're pushing an hour, and I know you probably got some things to do with the baby back home, but 2 questions for you just before you leave. One is as a player, not on the field, but just kind of like how you are in the locker room, how you are with your friends on the team, and at every stop that you've had and stops that you will have, how do you want to be remembered as Matt Sheldon, the player?
I think the main thing is hardworking. Like I really want to be remembered as like
Spencer?
I think that's Spencer. Yeah, walking in with his tennis rackets. Right on the good part of the podcast too.
Spence, I had him crying a second ago, dude. He's crazy.
I think I want to be remembered as just like a real hard worker, and just like relentless in the fact of like constantly improving themselves. And I think also just as a person, like a good person, a good guy wants to help people and make a positive impact on the game. And I think that's mainly it. Yeah, nothing else besides that. Just hard worker, positive impact, I guess.
Great. And as a man, as a father, as a husband, brother, my best friend, how do you want to be? How do you feel that your like decisions? What do people think about you? Let's put it that way. I got stuck. I didn't know what to say.
Hopefully it is that. Hopefully they see that I am a hard worker, and that I have some sort of positive impact on their lives or on soccer or whatever it is. What about you? How do you want to be remembered?
Man, you know, I like to give because growing up, there was a lot of things that happened to me, just experience-wise from friend groups, or I got to tell a fast story. There was one time where I didn't know it was a secret, but I passed the secret on to somebody, and it was about that person. So imagine you telling me a secret, and you say, "Don't tell Spencer," and I go to Spencer. I was in 6th grade.
Yeah,
and then
everybody has one of those stories in 6th grade. Yeah,
in 6th grade, and then like a few days later, that friend group was like, "You're no longer in this friend group." And my friend's mom was a teacher on campus, and she was a drama teacher, so she had like a huge classroom. And a few times I would like kind of like, "Where's everybody at?" I would walk through the hallway, and they would literally have like a Friendsgiving, but for a whole week. And I like walk by, and I like try to walk in, like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And like, "Hey, man, like you're no longer a part of this friend group. Like you can go, like you can go eat wherever, but you just can't eat in here."
Damn.
And I think that was an early like sign and kind of like hit to me a little bit of like, oh my God, I never want to feel this again. And if I can try to make people's lives and touch them in a way that like they'll never have to feel this ever, then I want to do that. And it was just such a lasting impact on me. And I don't know why 6th grade to now, you can imagine, like I try to do just nice things for people because I know how it made me feel when my mom, like that day, like I called her, I'm like crying. Or I didn't call her. There was no phones yet. I got in the car and I was just like, she's like, she sees me defeated, and I'm like crying, and she's like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" And we talked it out, and she was like, "I'm gonna go home and make you your favorite dinner. Like you don't even worry. I love you." And I get a lot of that from her. And I think that's how I want to be remembered is as a coach. If you're going through something, somebody to recognize that and put their arm around you and say, "Look, X's and O's, training sessions, that's important, obviously, but I want like to make sure that you're okay, and I want to give you the full confidence that we brought you here for a reason. You are our guy, and I want you to understand that you're loved here." I think that's how I want to be remembered.
Sorry, I'm going to keep asking questions.
Go ahead.
How, like for the second string goalkeeper, or for somebody in the second string, how do you do that? How do you instill confidence into them and the reality is that they're not your guy, they're not the one starting every single weekend?
Funny enough, I haven't had to deal with that yet because last season, one of the guys who was the number 2, he decided that he was going to pursue finance, so he like left mid-season. There was a tough conversation because he was the guy all preseason, and then Alex Rando, who came in on like an open trial, he came in, and then right away we noticed, okay, this guy can give us the best chance to win. We put him in, and poor Duncan, he was with us all preseason and didn't get to play the first game, but that's life. But then again, for me, it's like having those tough conversations, knowing why, and knowing the specific reason, knowing the specific reason and communicating that to them and say, this is the reason why you are not playing. But then this season, for example, we had a very tough situation where Tomas was the 3rd goalkeeper at LAFC, and the first team said, "Hey, we need him to get games." But we also felt that Abraham was a good piece for us. He led the young guys a lot, and he was someone who, in the good string of games, he won us so many points. So I said it on a recent podcast with Dan, I needed to get to Abraham and say, "Look, this is a decision that's out of our hands, and we're going to give Tomas the same love and the same appreciation when he comes down, so that when he travels with us, he's going to give you that same love. So we want to knock that out first. Secondly, you're going to be playing at some point in the next week or two. Every session that I'm doing today, or this whole week, is to get you ready for that. So if you need a ton of shots in the bubble to get you physically and goalkeeper fit, I will do that for you. If you want to watch a ton of film, I will do that for you. If you want to break down footage of training, let's do that. Whatever you need, we'll do." And to me, I think that went a long way because I think he recognized, yeah, I'm not playing, but I'm preparing every single day, and I'm being spoken to as if I'm the starter. And one thing that I love about Enrique, our head coach, was that no matter the situation, he would never drag his feet about the decision. He would always say, "Bring Abraham in here now, bring Tomas in here. We're going to not tell at the same time, but we're going to tell them what the situation is and how we're going to go about the rest of the season." So I think to answer your question, it's 1, communicate the reality of what's happening. 2 is, as best as you can, if the first is involved in training, you got to get them ready and do that. But whether it's 20 minutes before training or 20 minutes after, I say, "Matt, this next 20 minutes, completely tailored to what you need. If you want to hit 50 balls with your right, 50 balls with your left, let's do it. Because at the end of the day, people just want to feel loved and they want to feel appreciated. And you can't just say, here's a program and go do it, because physically you're not there and emotionally they can sense that you're completely detached. But if you're physically there, emotionally attached to the situation, they will appreciate that and it'll go a long, long way.
That's awesome.
And the last thing I will say, Dan Ball, who is a legend, he's a goalkeeper coach for Angel City. Dan brought up a very good point. He said, how do I make these goalkeepers feel like they're appreciated? And when you look at the NWSL, you have like the top, like there's only so many teams in the women's leagues, and you have the like 1, 2, and 3 could probably play anywhere. And so he's like, you have to you can't BS these players, so you have to come at them with the truth. And he's like, with Britt, who is the number, I think 2 at some points this season, but was number 3 at some points as well. It's like, you're probably not going to play. So me trying to give you feedback and to communicate that you're growing and you're developing, realistically, is not going to happen in games. I can't communicate that to you. However, he said we had the Spideo cameras, and there was moments where Didi, who's the starter, she'd made it a huge save. And you can see Britt run off the sideline and celebrate like she just saved the winning PK herself. And he said, I clipped that for her and I showed it to her. Although you didn't play, this is what you bring to the team. This is what we need. Keep doing this exact thing. Keep bringing the same energy. And it's those things that sometimes you can absorb from other coaches and be like, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
There's a buy-in now, knowing that whatever you're doing on the sideline, it's not being overlooked. We are looking at you and we're seeing you as the person who you can that's contributing to this team in whatever form that you can contribute. So to answer your question, I know it's a little bit long-winded, but that's essentially what it would do. Is you have to find ways to make them feel loved, get to their heart. But you know this, players aren't stupid.
Yeah.
They're not going to buy in if it's half-hearted. So at the end of the day, know what your intention is as a coach. And the last thing that Enrique, our head coach, said is, if you're going to start something, you got to continue. If you start it once and you say, hey, let's do video, I want you to improve, and the player said, let's do it again, and you say, yeah, we'll do it soon, but it never comes, that is when you lose them, because they say, this guy's just BS, full of BS. So don't ever start something unless you can follow up and do it again and again and again and make it consistent. So don't bite off more than you can chew.
Yeah, that's literally that's awesome. Like, I think that's perfect, because like as a player, that's exactly what I'm like looking for. Like, literally, like, don't bullshit me. Tell me the truth. I always say, I'm 30 years old. I'm a grown man. I hate the U16 talk of keep working hard. You're going to do this, you know, and you can say it, but it's like, the reality is like, we see this guy as the starter, as the number 1. You're the number 2. Here's why. This. Yes, keep working, but you need to improve that area for us to see you as a starter. Yeah. And then also at the same time, like you said, celebrating the little things like that. And you don't want to feel like you're forgotten about as a player. And there's so many coaches, because I know they have so many things on their head, and that they just kind of forget about those second string guys. And you can feel it even sometimes as the first string player. You're like you almost have to be the coach and talking to the second string, third string guys. Yeah. Like, you know, keep your head up, do this, like, watch this, you know, good. I'm seeing it in training. I'm seeing this. But yeah, I think that's awesome. I really do. You want to come coach me?
We'll see, man. We got some things at the LAFC. We'll talk about it. But Matt, Shelly, I appreciate your time, man. Congratulations on the baby.
Thank you.
And I'm hoping that baby's healthy, Mimi's healthy, and everything in your life is continued success, because I love you like a brother, dude. And I hope that you already had your wedding. I was gonna say I'll be a best man, but that time came and went, and I was an usher. I was the best damn usher.
You were great. You were great. I got a lot of good things said about that Omar guy, and we're actually gonna name our daughter after you, Omara.
Wow.
Yeah. So
this is news to me.
yeah. Don't clip this because it's not true. But
just next time, please do me a favor. Have your wedding at a mosque. That would be a lot better for me and my chances of finding a wife. Okay.
We'll do.
Thank you. But thank you, man, and we'll see you soon. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.